I will say, like, there's usually a dip before the bull run, like starts. I mean, I think we're already kind of in the bull run starting, but there's usually this one last dip, and maybe that's where we're at right now.
What the heck with Bitcoin price, man? Like, did you notice? So we were so excited for the ETF, right? 11, not only one, right? Not only two, 11 ETFs, right? All of the ETFs they got approved, which, I give kudos to the government. That in that way, it's like I don't see preference for BlackRock, right, or Fidelity
Hmm.
or whatever. So that was good. Good pat on the back to the government. Uh, but like, what the heck, right? So we discussed this couple times. What's going on? So let's rehash. What do you think that is going on now? Because we touched almost 48 on
Oh,
like
49, just about
49 almost,
almost.
right?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
were in the
almost.
48s. Mm-hmm.
So and now it went down to even 40s,
40.
40, touch it 40, right? So uh, it's a big chunk, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
20% in less than a week. So let's tell the audience what we think that is happening. And
Yeah.
again, we are to do in the internet. We are not financial advisors. So
Yeah.
don't
Well,
listen to us.
what was the thing that we ended with last when we were talking about it is like, what does BlackRock want? They want cheap Bitcoin.
Yeah, yeah. Remember, these institutions, they call it the smart money, right? And because literally they are moving the money from other people, and obviously if they don't make money for them, they will not make their money. That's an interesting thing, by the way, for the audience. Um, Most of these people, they used to have this notion of the 220, which is the way how they were charging as basically advisors. That's how they made their money. And what it means is that they used to have like they will charge them 2%. Let's say that if you have $1 million in the bank, they will charge them 2% a year just for the fee of handling their money, whether they were making money or not. That was kind of the fee, 2%. And then they will charge 20% on the profits of the investment. Let's say that the investment did 10%. So for that example of the 1 million, let's say that you already made 100K, so it will be 1.1 millions that you did in that year. So these guys, they will charge you the literally 2%, and on top of that, 20% of that profit that you did on those at that 100K, and they'll take that money out of that. That's how they were able to grow all of these financial institutions humongously, right? But also, we understand that not a lot of people have the knowledge to be able to diversify, to assess, to do some asset allocation, things like that. But yeah, right now with robo advisors, it's a little cheaper. But yeah, that's how it happened. Like until very recent. Right now, I think that is 1.2 I have here, or 1.1, right, 1 or 110%. So it's all over the place.
Yeah. Well, and so what you mentioned, that's what Grayscale has been doing, like leading up to this. They've had their they've had their customers that have been purchasing GPTC, right? And their fees are a little high, right? Compared
They're
to
high.
compared to what all the newcomers are offering. So, like we mentioned this a little bit last week, is that what we think is happening is like the people that are currently customers of Grayscale, they're like, okay, like cool, Grayscale was they were the only people in town that was offering this before. Now we've got all this new ones. Let me go ahead and pull out my money. I'll take the tax hit right now. They may have bought it when it was a little bit higher, when Bitcoin was like at, let's hit 60K or something like that. So they're going to take a little bit of a loss that, but that's okay. They'll use it for their taxes. And so they're going to sell off their GBTC and then move it into something cheaper like the BlackRock IBTC or Fidelity's FBTC, so they can get cheaper fees, right? So what's what is that causing? As people sell their grayscale, that's going to drive the Bitcoin price down, right? Because grayscale has to keep um, keep an equivalent amount of Bitcoin, right? So if there's people coming out of grayscale, they've got to sell the Bitcoin, and that's going to drive the price down. Now, you would think, well, as people buy the new ETFs, they're going to be buying, and that's going to cause the price to go up. I think that's what mainstream people would have thought. But like we mentioned last week, is more than likely right now they're buying OTC so that they don't drive the Bitcoin up. And why? It's because they want to keep the price a little bit down so they can continue to get Bitcoin at this price. So thing is, they can't do this for too long, right? Supplies will run out. Like a lot of people are using Coinbase um, to manage their funds, and so but actually that's a weird thing actually though. So Coinbase has the Bitcoin that they're trying to buy, so they're going to buy it from Coinbase, but then they're going to leave it in Coinbase too because they're the ones managing the funds. So I wonder if that's causing you know some weirdness also with the price, because it's not like they're removing it from the exchange from
Hmm.
Coinbase, but I don't think Coinbase is allowed to rehypothecate like with normal banks. Like they can't sell that one Bitcoin to three
Dude, that
different
would that will
people.
be, that will suck if a company is like,
Yeah.
oh, we did an error here on calculation, and they are actually using it to resell it to somebody else, right? Like in the case of the banks, there are regulations that for any dollar that we are putting on the bank account, there is fake money, right? Where they can relent to other people, and they just have that as a collateral of the 20% or whatever, depending on the rule.
Hmm.
Hopefully they're not doing that, right? So because there's only 21 million, how many have been mined? 20. It's
Probably
basically
20
we're almost
million
there.
just about.
20 million,
Yeah.
right? So it's only 1 million away to be able to mine, and that's it. There's only 21 million ever, plus the
Hmm.
ones that we lost, and the ones that people they have lost their coins. Or
Hmm.
do you remember that guy that he had a computer and the wife throw it away in the trash can, and because it's an old computer,
Right.
and it's like worth I don't know how many millions now. I
Right.
think that by the way, talking about that story, a few months back, I saw that he actually got some Boston Dynamics robots to be able to start
Oh,
scavenging it on the dump, right? So to see if they find it. So
that's a good idea. Actually, robots, man.
and I mean, if they find it, they find it, right? So, but
Hmm.
I think that is a scrap. Meaning, like, it's just
It's a very. I mean, he must have $100 million or so in there,
Mhm.
right? So it's got to
Plus,
be
it's
worth
probably
it.
more than that. Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, it's just that's so that sucks so bad. I don't know, but
I feel sorry for that person, right? So, like, it is what it
yeah.
is. So going back to the OTC and the BlackRock, we'll see if this cycle is different, right? Because if you see the price, there are some patterns that we see that sometimes it ripples before the kind of the new waves. This is kind of expected, right? So because we are calling it accumulation, where we think that all of these big players, they are trying to accumulate a cheaper coin as they can, so that way, uh, kind of they keep it on their size, because for their cases they can resell it to their all of their pension funds, all of the different things, and if they already have the supply, they can basically hoard it, right? They can become the banker hodlers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so, I was mentioning the exchange supply will eventually dry up. So they can't do OTC purchases there, but there's still also miners. So the miners that are mining Bitcoin, they could buy directly from the miners too. So that could That's also could be playing a part here, but we do know that the halving is coming in April, so that's going to half the amount of Bitcoin that's going to be able to be mined, um, and so that should also cause a little bit of a supply shock too, which should be driving prices up. But we don't know what other tricks they've got up their sleeves. Again, these guys are the professionals, so they probably have some strategies to try and continue to try and get cheap Bitcoin. But ultimately, I mean, it's going to dry up. Like supplies, there's not going to be enough supply for the demand, and the price should eventually go up. But Mando, I like how you mentioned like is this cycle going to be different? Because I've been seeing some of that as well. So, for one, I think for those of you that follow into the cryptoverse, Ben Cowan, I think his name is.
Mhm.
Um, he always does kind of a macro view, so
He has
more of
nice
the
charts, by the way.
cycles. He he does have really good charts, so I think maybe at some point we'll start being able to show some of that on our screens to talk about some of it. But I will say, like, there's usually a dip before the bull run, like starts. I mean, I think we're already kind of in the bull run starting, but there's usually this one last dip, and maybe that's where we're at right now. But I think what we've seen in previous cycles, the dip is a little bit deeper. So I don't think if it's going to be similar to what we've seen in the past, the dip is usually a little bit cheaper. So maybe we could even get into the 30s, into the high 30s. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but
Do you remember what percentage was that?
yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember exactly, but we already did kind of, I think it was close to 20% at least. So that last dip, I think it's more of, it's supposed to go down to the last low, the previous local low, which
Mhm.
was, I think it was around 38s maybe. So I think that's why they're saying maybe it's around that range. But um, in any case, we're kind of in that range anyway, so it may not have to go down that low. It could be like 40K was kind of the low, and then it'll start going back, or it could chop sideways. You don't really know, but there are a couple things that are coming that will cause some volatility and some price movement.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing that I heard about, will this cycle be different? Um, have you seen Samson Mao? He's one of those analysts that is kind of very bullish on Bitcoin. He's the one that's
No,
saying
not that one.
1 million, 1.5 million in the cycle.
I would not complain if that happens.
Yeah, hey, I wouldn't either. But there's some thoughts out there that are going on that they're saying, hey, now that these big institutional players are getting into this. And when we say institutional players, they're not all buying right now. It takes time. It takes, they've got now that it's available, it's an available product for the ETFs to be bought. They've got to go do presentations. They've got to convince their management. They've got to get all their salespeople get on board to go,
Hmm.
find customers to buy it and things like that. So it's not an instant thing. So I mean, I don't think we expected to see an instant shot up to 100K. It
I
takes
think that
time
that's
for
what
this to
no, but
trickle down.
I think that this is important for the audience because I think that sometimes the audience think that to the moon, right? And a price just goes up. It doesn't, right?
Yeah.
It goes in waves, right? Like
Mm.
usually it keeps rising. Look at any stock; it's never like a straight right arrow. So and I think that sometimes expectations, which I think that we're going in the right direction, the government is allowing it. We have good players, good institutions, and it's great news. Even if the price is not reflecting it right now, it's great news for the ecosystem. Talking about BlackRock, they have 9 trillions. Like they call it AUM, which is basically the kind of the money that they control or they manage, right? So it's their annual. It stands for annual.
Assets under
Uh,
management.
assets under management. That's right. So and it's a lot. It's a lot of money, right? And one of the things that happened is that in 1 week, the one for BlackRock, their ETF, they were having 1 billion AUM, which is a lot. It's a lot for a very short amount of time. So in their perspective, it was a success. For because I believe that they only were sitting it with only 25 million bitcoins, I think, in some point, right? So I don't understand very well the numbers, how with only 25 millions they're able to control that much. So, but again, that was what it was in the news.
Yeah, yeah. So I think they're purchasing. I'm not sure if they're beating Michael Saylor yet, but they do have a good amount. I think it's 25,000 bitcoins that they may have already purchased, and that's how they're getting to kind of that $1 billion mark already. But I think it's already getting over there. So
No, but
they're going to
Michael
be in
Saylor is still
competition,
the
right?
OG. Man.
Yeah,
He has
they have 100,000,
150,000,
150,000.
yeah, something like that is bananas.
So they're gonna be in competition here pretty soon, though. But Michael Saylor does have a pretty good head start, though.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, Mondo, I think it's been a pretty good success. They saw all of the people and BlackRock is just the biggest player out of all of the ETFs, but all the other ETFs are also making their purchases and they're figuring out their processes and things like that. So that's all looking good. But in saying all that, that's why there's some people that are saying, okay, with all these people now like having institutional money within these ETFs, like it's become more of an official type thing. Are they going to allow the market to come down in bear markets like what we've seen, where we see the 80%, 90% drawdowns from the top of the market, right? Are we going to see that anymore? Are they going to allow that? Do they want to see that? Because it would honestly, it would allow them to also buy, but their customers, they would probably freak out if they saw their portfolios drop by 80%. So there's some speculation there. They're saying we may not see any more bear cycles. It may just now be upward, at least for the foreseeable future, right? Maybe once it
Yeah.
stabilizes or whatever, it'd be different. But they're saying that there's going to be too much upward pressure to allow substantial drawdowns like what we were used to seeing in the first four cycles.
I do think that also they will try to convince their clients, right? Like, hey, because if the client has the access, they'll sell it there, right? But if like, hey, you know what, this is expected, this is part of the volatility, right, on the instrument, they'll convince them. They say, you know what, it's only 2% in your portfolio, not a big deal, right? This thing will come back at some point and things like that. So I think that it will allow to convince their clients, and then you don't see this exodus, which used to happen very often in crypto, that you'll almost see like 90% drop
You got to have
on
those
price.
diamond hands for that.
For sure, right? So, but yeah, I do expect that maybe we won't see that many, right, of these drawdowns to 90%, but maybe we start seeing 20-30% more normal, right, type of a drawdown, maybe 50, who knows. We'll see but it's interesting how it's going to play out.
Yeah. And, playing a little bit of devil's advocate, we're saying, oh, will it never go down again? Will there be no more bear cycles? Oh, what if we're seeing the start of the opposite? There's not going to be any more bull cycles and it's just going to level off here forever. I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't think that's going to be the case, but you never know. We don't really understand necessarily how all these forces are at play. But, my bet is on it going up. But again, that's all it is. It's a bet. We're two dudes on the internet, not official financial advice.
Yep. And remember, he is wearing a Texans jersey.
That's true. I haven't made any official bets for today, so I'm not really sure. I've got to really think about it. But no, I'm going for the Texans. So we're gonna pull it out. Just watch.
I'll bring it up next week.
Yeah. So, well, that's all we've got for Billionaire Watch today, and actually, that's all we've got for today. So, if you liked our content today, just remember to like, subscribe, comment. Again, we love the interaction. We love bringing our watchers into the show as well. So, we've got a lot to
we
talk
love
about
all
again
of
next time.
Eric's haters too.
The Eric, which Eric? This Eric or that Eric? Yeah, that's true. So whether you love us or hate us, please comment and we'll get back to you. We'll mention y'all next time. All right. We'll see y'all again in a week. Dale.
All right. Dale. Bye.